Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Menachos Samach Daled. We begin on Samach Gimel Amud Beis. It's going to be 6 lines off the bottom of the Amud. So let's refer back to the Mishnah. We have a discussion regarding the Menachos, which is offered on the 16th day of Nisan, right? That's when we start the Sfira Soimer, right? So it's an offering of Isarin, of soilus, highest quality, flour, flaky part of the grain, which is the highest quality type of flour. And we had a question in terms of quantity. How much do you start with? You're meant to end up with an isarin, a sirus haifa, a certain amount of flour for the mincha. But how much material do you begin with in order to get, after the sifting, to achieve, to yield that special high quality isarin? So according to the Chachamim, it doesn't really matter if it's a weekday or Shabbos. In any case, all these activities relate to a public obligatory carbon, which overrides Shabbos, which allows the Chiyah of Shabbos. So there's no issue in terms of what you're doing. You stick to the same routine. Whether it's weekday or Shabbos, you take 3 sa'ah and you sift it down to yield an isarin of high quality material. According to Bishmal, it depends. If it's Shabbos, minimize the efforts. Start with a smaller amount. During the weekdays, you do 5 sa'ah and you get the best sampling, you get the highest quality isarin, but on Shabbos, minimize the effort, minimize the malachos. Don't get involved with so much material, which would inevitably require doing many more malachos, more cutting, more winnowing, more butter, right? And then more concluded that even according to Bishmoel, at the end of the day, you can end up with high quality flour, but it's better if it's 5 to start with, so the proportions are more. But you can really get good yield even when you start with 3, and therefore we required you to do that on Shabbos. Whereas during the weekday, you start with 5, which makes it an easy job to get that one good one to use for the Omer. Now, some learn that when the Gemara says that Shvicha Milsa, it's better to start with 5, it's because actually the quality is a tad higher. You have more to work with, so you can get, the best sampling from the full 5. But others learn it just means that because it requires less effort to yield that high quality result, it's more respectful, it's more covered, it's more it's a show of ashiras, of wealth and generosity. So in any case, there's a certain advantage, but it's not important enough to allow for it to be done on Shabbos. So again, according to Bishmoel, we differentiate between Shabbos and the weekday. By Shabbos, we minimize the effort. We start with a smaller amount to get us to that required yield. Continues the Gemara. We located a corresponding opinion elsewhere, which seems to jive with Rabbi Shmuel's opinion, that on Shabbos we seek to minimize malacha, etc., even if it involves a carbon. Amar Rabba. So Rabbi Shmuel, whom we just discussed, who minimizes the Shabbos activity, and also Rabbi Shmuel Benoy, it's a different Tana, the son of Shol Rabbi Yechon, they seem to be going in the same track. The son Arba'as or Shecholis b'Shabbos. So it's the 14th day of Nisan, Erev Pesach, where you bring the Korban Pesach. It happens to be on Shabbos. We still process the Korban Pesach. We do the Shechita, etc. But what about the skinning process, the flaying, the removal of the hide? So there are 2 objectives. First of all, you want to remove the hide to enable you to process the basar, but that doesn't have to be done on Shabbos. You can wait until Matzah Shabbos for that when you're going to roast the. But secondly, you have to access the emur and the fats inside the animal to be offered on the mizbeach. So how much flaying do we do? Flaying, of course, is a malacha. We all know it's a malacha of mafshit, right? Arba'as or shecholis b'Shabbos. Mafshit is a pesach adachaza. You only do a partial flaying until the chest area, which gives you access to the innards for the akrava. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel B'nai Shel Rabbi Yechon Breka. That's his opinion. So on Shabbos we have to minimize the effort. To minimize, Chilul Shabbos. No. You fully remove the skin. You don't want the animal sitting there half done. It's not respect. No. We found a good connection to our sugya. Miloi Amar Rabbi Shmuel b'noi Shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Breka Hasam. Just as he says over there. If you can minimize the effort you meant to do so, you're resolved by the Omer. That corresponds to Rabbi Shmuel. On Shabbos, minimize the effort. If you can get by without it, or you can get by with less, you're meant to do so. No, how do you connect the two things? Perhaps they're not really connected. Dilma, perhaps. It's only here that Rabbi Shmuel says, start with just Risa. Don't go grand, go low-key. Why? You're not compromising. You're not degrading any karbanos, right? Aval Osam, as opposed to by the carbon Pesach. You're allowing the animal to lie there half flayed. That's bezayin. It's a bezayin. It's degrading. Perhaps in that context, he would agree to the Rabbana, you do a full removal of that skin. Inami. Alternatively, you can say another element of differentiation. Adkan, like Amar, Rishmoel, Bnoi, Shabrechem, Breka Hasam. It's perhaps only over there that he says that he meant to leave the animal half-skinned. Eladis Avalei Tzarech Kavaya. The reason is because you've already achieved your objective. You've gotten access to the a murna, which is called Tzarech Kavaya. It's for the sake of Hakrava. So you've gotten to the point that you're okay, just leave it. There's no need to continue being Achuli Shabbos, to overriding the Shabbos by way of a malacha. So you stop right there. But over here by the Omer, where, as we explained, there is an added benefit in starting with a larger amount that gets you better results. First of all, you haven't really achieved ultimate results with just 3. And first of all, you have to right? And Rashi learns that if you're going to do 5, you're going to yield better results. So it's Shabbos. Really, there is a justification to do more malacha on Shabbos. So perhaps perhaps he would agree to Rabbanan in this case. So basically, you can't compare the 2 notes. Elam Rav says, let me make another attempt at comparing Rabbi Shmuel to something else. Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Chanina B'skana Kehanim, who's actually mentioned in our Mishnah. Remember, we had another machlokes in the Mishnah in terms of the scope of the event when it's on Shabbos. Is it just one person with 1 sickle, or is it grand? 3 people, 3 sickles, right? Rabbi Chanina B'skana Kehanim, in contrast to Rabbanan, he held that on Shabbos he meant to minimize the event, low-key, minimize Chilul Shabbos. Which now the Gemara is connecting to the first part of the Mishnah, where Rabbi Shmuel as well tells you to involve a smaller amount of grain. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Chanina is kind of Omer Davar Echad. They're both on the same track. This nan. Rabbi Chanina is kind of Omer. B'Shabbos, if it takes place on Shabbos, Niktzar B'Yachad, it's just one individual doing the harvesting. Machal Echad with 1 sickle, Kavach is 1 basket, as opposed to weekday activity, which involves a greater celebration, a greater event. The B'Chol B'Shloisho, 3 individuals, B'Shalosh Kubos, Rosh Magalis. They don't differentiate between weekday or Shabbos. Echad Shabbos, whether it's Shabbos or weekday, it's important to have a big event, as we explained, to establish the proper perspective on this whole mitzvah, that it's not like the tzedukim, the troublemakers who insisted that it's only meant to be done on a Sunday, because they learned the pasuk literally, Shabbos, right? So it's important enough to have a full event, a public celebration, even on Shabbos. Echad Shabbos, b'shalosh kupos, b'shalosh magalis, right? Oh. So what do we derive? Me, like Amar Chanis Kana Kanam Hasam. It seems that just like over there, he says, if there's a way out, you can minimize, you're meant to do so. The less the better. Hachanami here as well, regarding the amount, the quantity of grain you're processing on Shabbos, if you can achieve same or similar results with a smaller amount. Like Tachin, we can't expand, our efforts unnecessarily, which involves more Chilul Shabbos. So you see that they're sort of on the same track, based on the same underlying, principle. Once again, the Gemara is going to negate this comparison. Perhaps it's only here that Rishmal says 3 sa'ah is enough on Shabbos. Because there is no publicity element here, meaning whether you do it 3 or 5 doesn't really play a role in terms of the impact. Aval Hasam the Ika Pursuim Milsa, but regarding the question of how many people should be involved, 1 or 3, 3 achieves greater publicity, which is critical for the process. Perhaps in that case, you would agree to Rabbanon. Even on Shabbos, you do that. Alternatively, perhaps only there that he says that if it's Shabbos, keep it low key. Because whether it's one person doing it or 3, the carbon material itself will be processed just as successfully. It doesn't really matter. But over here, when it comes to the sifting, it depends what you're starting with. Starting with the bigger amount, you'll end up with a better result. So if you minimize your efforts and you insist on a small quantity, you're not going to achieve the same quality results. It's not going to be, you're not going to achieve the same level of quality on the carbon. Perhaps over here, he would agree to Rabbanon. There's no difference between Shabbos or weekday. You meant to do it the best way possible. So once again, we negate this comparison. Ravashi comes in Rashi and presents another comparative equation. Rabbi Shmuel and our Mishnah, who minimizes the Shabbos malacha, Rabbi Yossi, they are on the same page. It's not. We have a Mishnah in Menachos Rosh Hashanah. We know that the Edom who witnessed the new moon, the fresh moon, will come testify in the Bezdin in order to enable them to declare it as Rosh Chodesh. And he meant to do it even if it involves Chilul Shabbos. They have to get into the car and drive over. You do it. We learn from a pasuk, right? So the question is, let's say the moon was clear and open for all to see. Do we still make that trip to the Bezdin, even on Shabbos? Or do we say, look, just as we saw it over here, let's assume the Bezdin, noticed it in Yerushalayim as well, and we're not really needed there. It's not whether it's seen clearly and openly, or even if it's not. And even if it's not, right? Whether it's open or not, whether it's clear or unclear. All of us are Shabbos, we don't differentiate. You never know what's going on in Yerushalayim. You go ahead, you jump on the donkey, and you make it to Yerushalayim. Rabbi Yossi Emer, he says no. If the moon is crisp and clear, there's no justification for Chilul Shabbos. All of us are Shabbos. Okay, if they don't really need you, what's the point? Says the Gemara. Now let's compare. Let's compare the two halachas. Mi loy amar Reisi hasam. Just as a Reisi tells us over there, kiva the efshar, if we can do without these people, loy tarchina, we're not meant to do the Chilul Shabbos. Hachanami, let's assume the same Hadi Omer. If you can get by with less material and minimize your Chilul Shabbos, hachanami kiva the efshar loy tarchina. So apparently they're on the same track. Once again, let's negate the comparison. How do you know to compare the two things? Perhaps it's only by the Omer that Rishmal insists on a small quantity of grain, because there isn't really any downside. You're not going to impede anything in the future. There's no factor of nimtseisa ata machshilun asilava. You're going to impede and discourage people from coming, which is the factor over there. So over here, there's really no risk. Aval Hasam, as opposed to the Edom that come testify regarding the new moon, if you're going to hassle them, they're going to be apprehensive. Well, was it really clear? Was it not clear? They're not going to take the chance. They're not going to want to be Chol Shabbos. If you're going to impose these restrictions, you're going to be marshal them. You're going to hold them back in the future, and Bezdin will not have any Edom. So perhaps in that case, this factor overrides, and it's more important. Perhaps he would agree to Rabbanan in that case. We don't set these rules up. You just come and you testify, even if you're not really needed. Look, it's part of the process. It's meant to ensure the success of the overall system. Alternatively, you can say Adkan like Rabbi Yossi Hasam. It's only there by the Edom that Rabbi Yossi says, if they don't need you, don't come. There's no real benefit in terms of the process, in which case there's no really justification to be Deicha Shabbos for you to come if it's not needed. But over here by the Omer, where it's needed, and the door is open for Chilul Shabbos, we do sifting, we do malach, and doing it in a better fashion will get you better result. The Ikatar Kavaya, Nitna Shabbos Ledachis. Ema, perhaps in this case, Rabban Spili, even Rabbi Yossi would agree to Rabban. There's no real difference between Shabbos and weekday. We stick to the same system. Interesting. So again, we have a Mishnah which contains two elements of differentiation. According to Rabbi Shmuel, on Shabbos we minimize the amount to start with. According to Rabbi Chanis Kana Kehana, we minimize the publicity aspect. We reduce the players. It's just one person, all that. And the Gemara sought to find comparative cases, and we sort of discovered all kinds of distinctive factors. Okay, Itmar. Now comes a new discussion. So we know that in the Beis HaMikdash they do malacha on Shabbos if it involves avodah, like a korban tzibur, like a chatos, a korban chatos which needs to be brought today on Shabbos. You bring it. Now let's say we have a pair of korbanos that were designated for the chatos, and only one is really needed, and he did both. So one is justified and one is unjustified. He'll have to bring a korban. The person doing it did a malacha on Shabbos. He has to atone for it. It's mar shachat shtei chatois shel tzibur. So he did shchita on two public korbanos chatas, but really only one is needed today. Either Rabba or Rami told us, chayiv al rishona, al shniya, sorry, he's liable for the second one that was unnecessary. Patal rishona, and of course he's exempt in terms of the first one. Actually, it's a mitzvah, right? And here's the punchline: I feel him as chapali b'shniya. Suppose he actually needed the second one. Let's say after the shechita of the first one, the blood spilled out. He needed the second one. That doesn't really justify, because at the point of the shechita, he was doing it as a malacha, right? Even if it was discovered after he did the second one, if he discovered that the first animal is not really high quality, it's a weak animal, and he meant to before the second one was nishchat, Rashi explains, meaning he did shechita on the first animal. And then he says, this one's bad quality. Rashi brings a pasuk of Malachi. I meant to offer a poor quality korban. So he proceeded to the second one, did shechita. He's chayiv. He's chayiv because, initially he meant to pick the best one, but once you did the shechita, that's your korban. So the second shechita was unjustified. It's a malacha. He's chayiv to bring a chatas. Really? Umi Amar Rabba Hachi. Is that true? That according to Rabba, this is the case? V'Amar Rabba, Rabbi tells us elsewhere that if the second one is higher quality, that justifies. He had before him two korban chatas. Achas Shmeina, one is a hefty, high quality one. V'achas Kush, the other one is a poor quality one. Shochat Shmeina, v'achakach shochat Kusha. He did the good one and then the bad one. That doesn't justify. Chayav, of course, he's liable for the second one. However, Kechushav, he started with the poor quality, and then he went to the better one. He's potter because, furthermore, actually advise him to do so. The superior, quality factor is so important, it even justifies. When we tell him, what do you do? You have poor quality, go get a better one and go for it. And this clearly contradicts the earlier statement of Rabbah that the quality differentiation doesn't justify a malacha. Iboy is saying sami chushim kamai. So one way to learn is let's delete the chusha case discussed earlier, because according to Rabbah, if you're bumping up the quality, it justifies a new shechita. Iboy is saying Rabbi Ami Amra, or you can say that the first statement was Rabbi Ami, it wasn't really Rabbah, who holds that actually it justifies. Amali Ravina Ravashi. Here comes a new case. Suppose he did shechita on the first one, and it seemed fine to him. And then he did shechita on the second one, which he shouldn't have done, right? And then after the fact, he discovers that the first one is problematic in terms of its quality. Something inside that's not up to par. In terms of the action, it was unjustified. Because when he did the shechita on the second one, he wasn't aware of that. But in retrospect, it was discovered that he did a good thing, because now he has a good quality chatas to show, right? Nimtzeis harishona kechusha bevnei me'ayin. The inners were discovered to be poor quality. Mao. What's his situation? Basar machshavte aslinan. Do we focus on intent? And when he did the second one, he hadn't yet known that it was justified, so he was intending on doing an isser. Or you look at the facts on the ground. Do you look at the end result, which ended up being good? Amalei says, of course, he's liable. That's the famous discussion between Rabba and Rabba, who discussed a similar case, but ultimately all agreed that if his machshava was off, he's chayiv. The itmaz we have learned. Shama shetava tinik b'yam. Okay, you got a Hatzalah call. A kid Elena dropped into the water. He came running with his fishing net, but he's already thinking supper. He's already thinking, I'll catch a good, fish there. Uparas metzuda lahalis dogam. He throws in his net with the explicit intent to catch fish. He's using the story, the emergency, as a cover to catch fish. Okay, vela dogam. And in fact, he caught a fish. He didn't catch the baby, just a fish. Chayiv. Of course, he's chayiv because both his intent and his act were malacha. Lahalis dogam. What if he intended on catching fish? But lucky for him, he pulls up his net, he finds a good fish and the baby. So that pretty much justified the action itself. His intent was off, but his action turned out to be an act of saving a life. Rav Amar, chayev. He's chayev. He did a malacha. If he did it unintentionally, he's chayev achatas. Right? Because he was clearly intending on doing a malacha. Rabbi says he's potter. Why? Let's see. Va'ad like Rabbi like a potter. Rabbi only exempts him because Rabbi holds, look, even the Shama, since he heard the emergency, Amrina Nami Daiti Atinik, we assume he's a good Jewish, huh? He's certainly also at least in addition to his fish that he's trying to catch, he's trying to save the child. So in his intent, there was a good element as well, and therefore it exempts him. Avaloi Shamaloi, but certainly if that wouldn't be the case, he hadn't heard this about the emergency, in which case his intent was completely nefarious. So although the end result was, lucky for him, an act of saving a life, he would still be chayiv achatas. He did a malacha. So certainly in our case, by the two carbon chatas, where he did one shchita, preceded to the next one, without justification, and then only after the fact, turns out that it was needed because the first one was poor quality, of course he's chayiv achatas, of course he did a malacha. So that's the first way to look at this. Actually, there's another version of this response. He says, actually, it's dependent on that machlokes. Rava would say chayiv, Rava would say potter, because according to this version, there is a dispute between Rava and Rava whether we look at intent or end result. You heard about the child that dropped into the water. Came running to catch some fish. He caught a fish. He caught his fish. He's chayiv, of course. He intended on fish, and he came up with fish and the child. So his intent was off, but his maaseh was justified. Rabba ma potter, we look at the actual maaseh is potter. Likewise, in our case of the chatas, he would be potter. Rabba ma chayiv. Why? Rabba ma potter, so basa maaseh. Rabba says, look at the act. The act was okay. Lucky for him. Rabba Amar, no, he's chayiv. The intent is what determines the nature of what he does, and he's chayiv. Rabba, okay, back on the track of Pikuach Nefesh. So we have a very ill man, and the doctor issues a prescription. Gregeras achas, we must eat a dried fig today, okay? That's Pikuach Nefesh. So 10 people go running to pick a dried fig. 10 people go storming out. Right? Unbeknownst to them, right? There were other people involved, but now we have 10 figs. They all meant well. Even if they came running at the same time, so really, they're really offering the same thing. They're p'turim. I feel it was there. Here's the punch. Even if they come in subsequent to each other. First comes Reuben with his fig. Second, Shimon huffing and puffing. Levi. So by the time Shimon came around, he wasn't needed. He was a fifth wheel. It doesn't matter. What they all did is fully justified. It's a mitzvah. In fact, Rashi says on the bottom line, the kula on the mitzvah is skavnu, and they're potter. The hazor is l'chayla b'shubach. The quicker you go, the more hasty. Right? The better. You're not meant to wait and see what else everyone else is doing. Even if he already ate the first one, by the time the second one came along and he's all better. Don't have any misgivings. You did a mitzvah pikuach nefesh. It's not about the results, about the efforts, about the intent. Now comes an interesting riddle, okay? By Rava. So based on this, we have a question. Rava says a shayla like this. Okay, picture it. You have a chayla who needs 2 figs. Okay, so the fellow runs to the tree to pick his figs. Now he's faced with 2 choices. On one side of the tree, he has a fig on one stem. Next to it, another fig on a separate stem. That would require 2 snips, two malachas, 2 malach of kaitzer, right? Detaching something from a tree, right? Next to that, he finds a threesome, like a hadassah mishaloshim, has a threesome, 3 figs, perched on the same stem. That only necessitates 1 snip, 1 act of kaitzer, but the yield, the amount of fruit that's being sort of produced here is a greater amount. It's 3, which he doesn't really need. So which way do you go? Do you prefer a smaller amount of food, which is the essence of the malacha as well? Because the malachas on Shabbos are about the act and the yield, right? There's a minimum amount. You need to have actually a gregarious, that's a shear, regarding any malacha that's involving food production on Shabbos. It needs to have a minimum of gregarious, that amount of food, whether it's winnowing, whether it's right. So you're producing a greater amount unnecessarily if you do the 3, but you're minimizing in terms of your action. You're doing just 1 snip. On the other side, you have just 2, which is what you need, but you're doing 2 snips. Which way do you go? Do you focus on the act or on the yield, on the result? He has prescribed 2 gergeres. You have 2 figs attached to the tree by way of 1 uketz, that's the stems, each one is attached separately. Or, v'shalosh, you have 3 boiketz echas, perched on the same stem and attached as 1. Hai minayu maisina, which one do you bring? Shtai maisina, do you do the 2, the pair, the chazalik, that's all he really needs. Why do more? Or shalosh maisina, go to the threesome, to come in ma'ata ktsira, because you're minimizing the ktsira, the snip. Pshita, of course, the second option, shalosh maisina. Despite the greater yield. And the Gemara will now loop it back to our Mishnah. Very interesting. Where we have Rabbi Shmuel who says that on Shabbos you have to minimize the yield. Do a smaller amount of food. The Adkan, like Rabbi Shmuel Hasim, it's only over there. Rabbi Shmuel says, start with 3 se'ah on Shabbos because it's not just about the yield, it's about the malacha. Less harvesting, less winnowing, less eldechi mimayit bachil, because when you're shrinking, you're decreasing the quantity of the material, the food. Mimayit b'ktsira, you're avoiding ktsira and all kinds of malachas. Aval but over here by the figs, if you're going to zero in on the yield, the 2 instead of the 3, you're actually going to increase the amount of malacha that you're doing. You're increasing the ktsira, you're doing 2 snips instead of 1. Vade, there's no question, shalosh maisina, you take the second option. Do 1 snip on the 3 figs. Okay, says the Mishnah. Mitzvah so'emer, lavi menachos, talking about the menachos so'emer that you bring on Pesach, the barley offering. Preferably you bring material which grows near Yerushalayim. It's more fresh, we'll see. In the Gemara, suppose the one nearby hadn't yet ripened. Maybe you can go anywhere. In fact, there was a story that it came from very far away. It was a time of war, as we're going to see in the Gemara. So it happens that one time the Omer material showed up from a faraway land, faraway place, Migagay Srifin. And likewise, in that year, the wheat for the Shtei Alechem came in Bikasein Suchar. My time says, why would you bring specifically from nearby? Iba is saying one pshat is mishum caramel. Torah describes it as caramel. It has to be caramel is like rach. Really like rach. It's soft and fresh and plump, and so the closer it is, the fresher it will be. Right? Because you have it right nearby. It doesn't dry up from the traveling. Iba is saying another reason mishum de'eman viral mitzvah. I meant to sidestep a mitzvah opportunity. Here you have material that's suitable. Go for it. Don't. What was the story behind this story? This was the end of Bayis Sheni, and the Hashmonaim were involved, were leaders, and there were two brothers, two descendants of the Hashmonai dynasty that were vying over the kingship. Two brothers. One was Hyrcanus, one was Aristobulus, and they were waging war. Hyrcanus was on the outside of Yerushalayim, laying siege on the city and trying to pressure his brother to give up. Hyrcanus was on the outside. Aristobulus, his brother, was on the inside. Now, on a daily basis, they would supply them from the outside with sheep for the Karban Tamid for the Beis Hamikdash. They would send out a container of coins, and in exchange they would get their sheep. And from the outside they would send up the sheep. There was this older fellow who was actually in Yerushalayim, and he sided with the one outside, so he's behind enemy lines and he's trying to tip off the ones outside, how to get the upper hand. Now he couldn't speak directly, but he knew this Morse code. He was familiar with this Greek way of expression with motions or whatever, and he used that to convey this nefarious message. He hinted at them, he texted them with this chachmas yivanis. He says, look, you want to win the war? Stop the karbonis. Amrlan, he tells them, you should know. As long as they're involved in the avodah, they have the animals to supply the avodah, not going to be handed over to you, you're not going to win the war. Okay, basically stop the process. Stop sending them the animals. Lamachar, and that's what they did the next day. When they sent out the daily payment, instead of sheep, they sent back a chazir. Terrible. They sent up a swine. And this was terribly degrading and bizayin for Yerushalayim, for Eretz Yisrael. Once the swine reached halfway up the wall, grabbed with his nail, he grabbed the chayma, and that shook up the country. In his da'az Eretz Yisrael, the whole Eretz Yisrael trembled. It was a travesty. The full length and width, which is 400 parsa long, 400 parsa wide, the whole Eretz Yisrael, Arba Meis parsa. Arba Meis parsa. At that point, Chachamim declared, cursed is one who raises swine, and one who teaches his family this type of Greek culture. Okay, and regarding that period, it was said that Masa, because they laid siege and they destroyed all the fields, the whole food supply around Yerushalayim was destroyed, so they had to go find the Aymer material from far away. Masa Shabbat Aymer, the Aymer material showed up from far away, maybe Gagas Strifen, from this place called Gagas Strifen, which the Alecha material came, because in Seichar, as we had in the Mishnah. How did that happen? Kimot Aymer. So when the time came to do the Aymer, they had no material, they had no barley. They were in a crunch. Where were we going to bring the Aymer material? Achrasu, they put a ad in the paper. They called out for help. Also, Cheresha, so this Cheresh, this deaf mute fellow shows up with some sort of information that could be helpful. But he couldn't speak. So he hinted. He placed one hand on the roof, one on this shed of some sort. And he was standing like that in a strange fashion, and they figured he must be something up. But they couldn't decipher his riddle. Amrlu Mordechai. So there was a great scholar, a name of Mordechai from the Megillah. He says, let me try to figure this out. Roof, this shed, which is called a tzrif. Mi'ika duchta, perhaps that's what he's alluding to. Is there a place that's called, the Shema, that's called Gagais Tzrifin, or Tzrifin Gagais? Yep, Batku Ashkechu, they went around and they looked up, Google Maps, and they found this town, and they found some grain, beautiful. Likewise, when they came to the Shtei Alechem on Shavuot, they were stuck without the wheat. They weren't sure where to get the achrazu, so they put an ad in the paper. Also, Gabra, this fellow showed up again, a deaf mute, perhaps the same guy. Placed one hand on his eye. On the other hand, in the hole in the doorway over there, which is called a sichra. Amar Lu Mordechai, once again Mordechai to the rescue. He says, is there a place which is called Ayin Soicher, or the other way, Soicher Ayin, but they went and discovered the wheat. There was another story where Mordechai came to the rescue. Oh, shalosh nashim. There were 3 women. The Aisu shalosh kin. Each one had a pair of birds. A kan is like a pair of birds. So they had 3 pairs. Now, typically, an isha brings a pair for the sake of the tumah that she experienced. So then it's going to be 1 chatas, 1 oila, right? But if it's just a donated, for a pledge or whatever, then it could be a gift, a double oila. So the kohanim had to listen up to what they were saying in terms of what the purpose is. Chadam, so one woman says, it's from my ziva experience, which assumingly means a chatas and an oila. But chadam liyamasi, other one says it's from my yama, from my yam, from my sea, like a flow. Also, they assumed it means a tumah. Chadam liyamasi, this was for the. Third one says this is for the period, the time, the ayna, the period. Okay. So the Kehanim understood that it's meant to be a chatas and oila. Zivasa means zava mamish. The one that said it's for the ziva, it means for the she meant for the ziva experience. Liyamasi meant liyamasi mamish, like a flowing sea, meaning the ziva experience, which requires this chatas and oila. Leinasa means leinasa for the zman. Rashi learns actually that the leinasa means the zman, the 8th day, again as part of the purification process following a tumas ziva. So in which case the kulu, all 3 pairs, are meant to be processed accordingly, which is chada, chatas, chada, one is a chatas, one is an oila. Amalu Mordechai, he says, Mordechai, hold it, before you proceed, I have another way of deciphering this. I have another suggestion. Perhaps it's not for ziva. It's not a chatas and oila. They all mean to donate their karbanos as oilos only. Shema, perhaps the one who said l'zivasi b'zayv sikna. She was endangered by her ziva, she was very ill, so she promised this gift as a gift. Shema b'yad sikna, the one that said liyamasi, she didn't mean ziva, she meant she was endangered at sea, and she promised this gift. Shema b'eina sikna, the one that says for my eye, aynasi, she meant like my eye, aynasi. She had some sort of danger in her eye. The kula oilas ninu, so they're all really oilas. Hold it, don't. Badak v'ashkach. In fact, they investigated further, and it was discovered to be exactly as he says. Behind it's not that corresponds with the Mishnah in Shkolim. Psach, that was his name. He was in charge of the birds, Alakinen. And who's that? It's a Mordechai. It was another name for Mordechai. Why was he called Lo Manikash Psach? Why is Psach? Shepesech Dvarim B'Darshan. He would decipher obscure terms, and he would elaborate and clarify. As per the story we just had, he was a linguistic expert. In fact, he was familiar with all 70 languages. So certainly he had an insight on the linguistic scene. Asked the Gemara, what's the big deal? Everybody in the Sanhedrin, he was a member of the Sanhedrin. Kulu Sanhedrin, Nami Yadi Shivim Lashon, all the members of the Grand Court knew these 70 languages. As Rabbi Yechon tells us, the members of the Sanhedrin had to pass a very high bar. Anyone in the Sanhedrin, you would only appoint a dayan in the Grand Sanhedrin, Ele Bali Chachma, that be super wise, Bali Mara, good looks, Bali Chaim, Bali Kaima, tall and imposing, Bali Zikna, older people, Bali Kshafim, experts in sorcery, to get to the bottom of the issue when confronted with that type of transgression. They have all 70 languages down packed. Why? Sanhedrin Shemas. Why is that so important? To avoid interpreters. Sanhedrin Shemas v'piamaturgaman. So that it wouldn't necessitate translators, which would sort of water down. They would have to listen to a translator, which is not, from the source. So everybody had 70 languages, not just Mordechai. Ella, the answer is he had an advantage. Dava baya lishni v'darish. He would mix words and lashonis, and he would elaborate. Meaning he had the languages down packed. V'hainu d'chsiv v'Mordechai bilshan, as the pasuk describes that Mordechai bilshan. Rashi says bilshan is like boilel lashonis. He would know how to decipher all kinds of linguistic riddles, and as per the stories we had before, he was very good with words and languages that added insight, which stood him apart and higher than the rest. Okay, so we discussed the process of producing the Ayman material, Shabbos weekday, any difference? Yes, no. We had the double chatas, whether he's chayiv for the second one. We had the story of the fish and the child. We had the riddle regarding the figs on the tree. One snip is preferred. The Omer material meant to come from close by. We had some incidents where materials had to be brought from far away during wartime between the brothers. And we had quite an impressive description of Mordechai Hatzadik. All the best to you and Hatzlacha.